This is the fourth gate of Kammasaka Zen, known as monastery rituals. This is Dharma talk number 6. And it's about the koan. If you meet the Buddha on the road, kill him. It's also about the fourth ox herding picture, called Catching the Ox, and the fourth gate of Kammasaka Zen, known as the monastery rituals. In Zen practice, the teachings can often seem paradoxical, intended to break through the logical mind and tap into the deeper, more intuitive wisdom. And one of the most provocative and often misinterpreted Zen koans is, if you meet a Buddha on the road, kill him. Now, at first glance, this may seem a violent or sacrilegious, but its deeper meaning points to the heart of Zen. The elimination of attachment, particularly attachment to ideas of enlightenment and external authority. This koan aligns with the fourth image in the 10 ox herding pictures, catching the ox, which symbolises the practitioner's early grasp of the nature of the mind, albeit incomplete. And finally, the fourth gate of Kammasaka Zen, an emerging spiritual tradition. It's blending Zen with contemporary practice. It encapsulates the deeper letting go of the ego, symbolised by stepping through the threshold of deep insight. Excuse me. These three concepts are intertwined. They intertwined to illustrate a crucial phrase in spiritual practice, moving beyond conceptual understanding towards direct experience. So in the koan, if you meet a Buddha on the road, kill him. The phrase, if you meet a Buddha on the road, kill him, is attributed to Zen master Linji, the founder of the Rinzai school of Zen. It tends to shock many upon first hearing it, but within Zen it points towards a vital truth. The Buddha is not an external figure to be worshipped or venerated. Rather, the Buddha nature exists within every individual. And the koan emphasizes that any attachment to an externalized idea of enlightenment, authority, or even spiritual idea is represented by the Buddha on the road. And it must be killed. This killing refers not to literal violence, but to the rejection of dualistic thinking and the notion that enlightenment is something to be found. Something to be found outside of ourselves. This koan, in fact, is a challenge to dogma and dependency. In traditional Buddhist practice, the Buddha is revered as the teacher. the teacher who provides guidance to the path to enlightenment. But in Zen, where a direct experience of one's true nature is paramount, even the Buddha can become a symbol of obstruction if one clings to him as an object of veneration, or as an ideal separate from the self. Thus, killing the Buddha signifies the practitioner's transcendence of the need of external validation and authority. It is a statement about self-reliance, and it is a statement about the dangers of attachment, even to the highest spiritual goals. And in the 10 ox-herding pictures, a series of illustrations that use Zen to depict stages of spiritual development. The 4th picture, catching the ox, holds particular significance. These pictures are used as the metaphor of the ox. The metaphor of the ox is used to symbolize the wild, untamed mind, to depict the gradual process of self-realization. So in catching the ox, the practitioner has glimpsed the true nature of the mind and has succeeded in grasping it, although imperfectly. The ox has been caught by the nose, yet it struggles, representing the mind's resistance to being tamed and fully understood. So the 4th picture is a crucial turning point. And the practitioner has moved beyond merely searching for the ox, the true nature of the mind, and has now engaged with it directly. However, the struggle has just begun. The ox is not yet subdued, symbolising ongoing challenges in overcoming deep-rooted habits, illusions, and attachments. So this stage mirrors the insight revealed in this particular koan. If you meet the Buddha on the road, kill him. Just as the ox herder must grapple with the unruly ox, the practitioner must grapple with the temptation to solidify enlightenment into a fixed idea or external object. Now, the ox represents the wild nature of the mind and ego, which must be caught and it must be tamed. But it's not yet fully controlled or mastered. In this picture, the practitioner is at a stage where intellectual understanding or spiritual experiences have not yet been fully integrated. Because there is still a gap between recognizing the truth of one's Buddha nature and embodying it in daily life. So the ox struggles because old habits of the mind, clinging to concepts, judgments and attachments, They are so deeply ingrained. So here the killing of the Buddha becomes essential. It represents the need to let go of conceptual frameworks and expectations of what enlightenment should even look like. So the fourth gate of Kammasaka Zen is about having the deep insight and letting go. And it reflects the similar dynamic found in this koan and found in the fourth ox-herding picture. The tension between realization and integration can't be overestimated. The fourth gate represents a stage where the practitioner is caught a glimpse of deeper insight. Yet, full liberation is still beyond reach. And the ego is no longer the primary director of one's actions. But its remnants still influence perception and experience. It is a gate that calls for a profound release, letting go not only of attachments, but also of the idea of control itself. It is at this stage that the practitioner can experience a form of deep insight, which could almost be likened to a momentary awakening. This insight is a direct, non-conceptual understanding of the nature of reality, of the nature of impermanence, and the understanding of interconnection. However, this breakthrough is often accompanied by a lingering sense of egoic resistance. The self, now aware of its illusionary nature, tries to maintain its position through more subtle forms of attachment, through more subtle forms of clinging to the notion of enlightenment, clinging to one's pride in one's progress, or even an over-identification with some sort of spiritual identity. Just as in the ox-herding picture, the ox has been caught, but still resists the practitioner at the fourth gate. So at the fourth gate, we must confront the deep-seated tendencies of the mind to simply prevent total surrender. And it's here that the metaphor of the koan comes into play. The Buddha must be killed for the journey to continue. The practitioner must relinquish even the idea of progress on the spiritual path. Because any conception of enlightenment or spiritual success must be let go, as they tend to resent or represent totally new forms of bondage. So the paradox here is that true freedom is found not in achieving anything, but simply fully surrendering to the flow of existence without grasping at outcomes. So, the integration of these three concepts. These three, let's call them spiritual markers, the koan, the ox-herding picture, and the fourth gate, intertwine in their shared emphasis on letting go of attachment, especially to external or conceptualized ideas of enlightenment. And they mark a phase in the Zen practice where the practitioner has gained some level of insight, but is still in danger of being trapped by their own understanding. There is a deeper knowing that arises from experience, yet a more profound liberation awaits, one that involves dissolving even the attachment to spiritual existence or the spiritual experience itself. And the koan, if you meet the Buddha on the road, kill him, it shocks the practitioner out of complacency. It reminds them that enlightenment is not a destination, but it is simply an ongoing dynamic process. So any fixed notion of the Buddha or of oneself as a spiritual person must be transcended so to move forward. Similarly, in the fourth ox herding picture, the practitioner has caught the ox, but is still in the midst of the struggle. The mind is resistant to complete surrender, just as the ox resists being fully tamed. And the fourth gate highlights the practitioner's arrival at a place of deep insight, yet also the need to release the most subtle forms of clinging that prevents full liberation. So each of these stages point towards a central Zen truth, that enlightenment is not an object to be attained or a state to be preserved. It is instead the natural expression of one's true nature, that is realized only when the mind is free from all attachments, including the attachment to enlightenment with self. And to kill the Buddha is to recognize that the ultimate truth cannot be grasped or held on to. The ox is not to be captured or subdued forever, but understood as a part of the natural flow of life, no longer a source of resistance or conflict. So to conclude it all, the koan, if you meet the Buddha on the road, kill him. The fourth ox herding picture, the catching of the ox, and the fourth gate of Kammasaka Zen, they all represent a pivotal stage in spiritual practice. It is a stage of profound insight, mixed with lingering resistance, an awakening that is still tethered to subtle forms of attachment. The practitioner has caught a glimpse of true nature, of a true nature of the mind, but is still learning how to fully let go and live in accordance with that realization. And it's these teachings that remind us that the spiritual journey is not about accumulating knowledge, It's not about accumulating experiences. It's not even about accumulating insights. Rather, it's about stripping away all the obstacles, the direct experience of reality as it is. So, in Zen, the ultimate goal is to live in harmony with the flow of life, in the now, free from delusion of the self and attachment. The ox-herding pictures, the koan and the fourth gate are all markers on this path, guiding the practitioner to ever deeper levels of surrender, deeper levels of freedom, and the realization of the true nature of mind and existence.